some of my friends from Ian's Friends Foundation.
A couple days after my birthday, I started having really, really bad migraines.
We got her to a neurologist when she was symptomatic, and I remember watching the PA examine her, and she saw that Julia had a neurological deficit on one side and said, we're going to have to MRI her. The neurologist talked to us first, Holly and I first, and it had Julie wait outside, and it's like being punched in the stomach.
They invited me back in, and he told me I had a brain tumor in my brainstem. And I just thought, this can't be happening to me. I'm supposed to be normal. I have a whole life to live. My radiation treatments were 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And when you get radiation, you have to go on steroids. And steroids make you eat a lot. They make you very hungry. I kind of blew up like a balloon. So it was like my 23rd treatment. They had to make a second mask for me. By the 30th treatment, they had to cut a hole out of it because I couldn't breathe, because it was so tight.
I was introduced to Phil and Ian's Friends Foundation by a friend of mine who I coached softball with. At the time she was in radiation, I got to a point where I just needed to talk to survivors. I talked to Phil a number of times, and he helped me understand something that they were doing up in New York that was a surgical approach to infusion directly into the brainstem. He introduced us and helped us get a consultation with a neuro-oncologist at Los Angeles Children's, who was just a sounding board for helping us think about whether we're doing these next therapeutic steps for Julia or to make us feel better about what might happen to her inevitably and feel like we'd done everything we possibly could for her. And Phil offered a lot more than hope. He offered a whole bunch of help as well. We ended up enrolling Julia in a trial being conducted out of the Affleck Center, and it was supposed to be relatively low impact.
One of the things was they said that you shouldn't lose your hair. Nobody else lost their hair on this medication, and I just was reacting a lot worse to it. I was getting a lot more of the side effects. I lost all of my hair during my chemo treatment. I did cry a little, but then I just thought, it grows back. This is when I first got my wig. That just made me feel so much better, knowing that I would still feel like a girl with hair.
But she's doing remarkably well. Having been through this has just been transformative on her outlook on life, and she's happy and optimistic and really tries to live every day like it's a real day, and she's just remarkable.
My dad would take all three of us, each separately, to go to Six Flags every year.
Last year, I brought her, she was in the middle of chemotherapy. I pushed her around in a wheelchair for 4 or 5 hours because I was afraid it was the last time she was going to be able to ride roller coasters.
I love roller coasters. This is my favorite ride. It's like you're flying like Superman.
I said to her on the way here, I said, this is kind of celebration for me, Julia. And she said, it's one for me too, Daddy.
I'm going to go every year until I die, which is a long way from now.
Our youngest son, Cameron, was diagnosed with a brain tumor in 2008. On February the 7th, I was one of the moms, like every other mom in America, who says, oh, childhood cancer will never happen to my kids. And on February the 8th, I found out that it had. Cameron had some vomiting accompanied with headaches. I made the decision to take him to the local ER. And I saw this doctor kind of zooming in and out on what was a scan. The doctor came into the room and he says, this is the worst part of my job. Within a matter of 48 hours, we went from having a kindergartner, playing at school, full of life, to being in a major institution facing brain surgery and not really knowing what was in the future. Cameron finished his treatment and was back at school. We kind of went into this mode of getting back to normal, whatever that means after going through such a journey. He was doing incredibly well. He was asymptomatic. He was going to the hospital every 3 months for MRIs. So we went into Duke, and he went in for his scan. And when I didn't hear from the oncologist for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, I just had a pit in my stomach. It was bad. He had not relapsed in his brain, but he had relapsed in his spinal fluid. I asked his docs, are we talking weeks or months? And they both said, we're not talking months. What do you do with that as a parent? You can't just give up. But at the same time, you know that there's no treatment available that will work for him. How do you make a lifetime of memories in a few weeks? As it turns out, he lived almost 11 months from that point on no therapy. And during that time, we did pretty much anything and everything he asked to do that he physically could do. I feel like we made a lot of good memories with him, and he ultimately passed in November of 2011.
Bria's MRI remains clear, and she started school this week. This week, in earnest, she joined the family of man, or more precisely, the family of children.
Dear Bria, happy birthday to you.
One of the things that we helped fund was actually now done in 7 children in New York City. And there's 14 children who were signed up in this trial. There are other situations where we're so close to getting to that next step, that next level.
In the Evans Blue project, we designed, can we find out for sure where the tumor ends and the normal tissue is beginning so that we can spare the taking out of normal tissue and not compromise function of the brain. We've done very well with this project. We published this study in a reputed journal. We just had a lab in Washington, D.C. test it in a very diffuse brain tumor model and show efficacy where they're able to clearly pinpoint where the tumor is so they can do surgery on this. So we're very pleased that not only in our labs, but some others are now taking this DIAP and testing it in their labs and showing efficacy.
We've proven that we can take a brain tumor that's deep within the brain that can't be operated on and move it up to the surface. And this is tremendously exciting to anyone who works in brain tumor research and anyone who has a child with a brain tumor that's inoperable. Right now we use electrical stimulation to stop tremors in people with Parkinson's disease and other disorders. But the novel idea that Dr. Balmkonda had is that perhaps we can use electrical stimulation to reduce the amount of division of brain tumors.
These are all sort of out-of-the-box, new approaches to tumors, trying to radically change the options so we have a step increase in efficacy and not just an incremental increase.
I'm much better, but I'm not cancer-free yet.
Most people are very shocked by the lack of funding. Children are not just little adults. Because there have been no real new drugs developed for kids with cancer, the toxicities for children who undergo treatment for their specific diseases can be really tremendous, especially for children with pediatric brain tumors. Private foundations say we are willing to realize that this is a high risk but potentially really high reward research project, because those are the labs that may come up with incredible advances in the field, and those are also the labs that are probably not going to get funded by the government simply because of the risk involved in it.
Our goal always will be to try to take care of all these children as quickly as we can. And the thing that we need you to know is that these children don't have time.
It takes anywhere between $5 to $8 million for a device to be approved to test into humans. And it can be done in about 3 years if we have the funding. We just could not test these new ideas without support from people like you in this room, without Ian's Friends Foundation, and without Ian as an inspiration for us to take this on.
I can almost see it, that dream I'm dreaming, but there's a voice inside my head saying you'll never reach it. Every step I'm taking, every move I make feels lost in no direction. My faith is shaking, but I gotta keep trying, gotta keep my